Anything you would like to talk about? There's this, though, that I need to raise this. There's something going on behind the scenes in the state government that you need to know about. It's a sign of just how much disquiet there is around the government's performance and Daniel Andrews as leader. Now, I'm not saying this will be the beginning of the end of the Premier, but it's a sign of disquiet, as I said. Herald Sun, by coincidence, reports today the numbers are being counted for a leadership challenge to Daniel Andrews. Now, I think that's right, but it's a long way short of being successful yet or being on. I think the Premier would easily have the numbers. Talk of a challenge is not serious, or not yet. But here's the background to illustrate the toxic nature of what's happening in the government's own ranks, how toxic the mood has become. This began in earnest a week ago, when The Age published a background piece in which they referred to allegations Mr Andrews had said something which really calls into question his credibility and whether he really is what he claims to be. It was a vile, degrading, offensive statement about a woman who was then a female member of Parliament and seriously ill. Now, I hasten to add, the Office of the Premier denied this, and eventually, last night, in a statement to me, so did the Premier. I'll read that statement in a moment. But despite that initial denial, the problem continues. And the problem is this. It was alleged that the Premier, referring to a then Member of Parliament, an opponent, said something disgusting, disgraceful. What makes it worse is that Member of Parliament he's alleged to have said this about was a woman. And given the stand he's made about treating women well, that's important. The person involved was Donna Bauer, the then Liberal member for Carrum. At the time, she was suffering bowel cancer. Thankfully, she's doing okay now. This allegedly happened in 2014. Mr Andrews, who was opposition leader, is alleged to have said, when discussing Labor's chances in some Sandbelt seats, words to the effect of, "Don't worry about her, she'll be shitting in a bag soon. She'll be shitting in a bag soon." Now, I repeat, the Premier denies it strongly. His office issued a statement last week saying the claims were fiction. But here's the point. Sources in the Labor Party reject the denial. They've told this program Mr Andrews did say it or something similar on at least 2 separate occasions. They also say it's causing considerable concern and anger within the backbench of the party. Now, understandably, I believe Mr Andrews is very sensitive about this. His office has certainly threatened us if we broadcast. I've talked to Mr Andrews privately on Friday, and he wasn't threatening, but he said I couldn't repeat publicly what he said. It was off the record. I asked him for a written statement. He considered that over the weekend, and last night he gave me this, attributed to him personally. Quote, "The claim by unnamed sources is defamatory, disgusting and wrong. After losing my dad recently to a long and heartbreaking battle with cancer, it is disgraceful that people would sink this low. These lies have also brought unnecessary distress and hurt to others." Unquote. Now, the point's this. I personally don't know whether Mr Andrews said such an offensive and hurtful thing. I have sources telling me one thing, he's telling me another. Somebody is misleading me and you. Both sides can't be telling the truth. Mr Andrews, it must be said, is putting his name to it publicly. The sources are not. I do know Ms Bauer, who's now out of Parliament, has been told about the allegations. She's upset. Mr Andrews has called her personally, he did at the weekend, and denied to her that he said this. More than that, Mr Andrews has form for personal abuse. He did refer disparagingly to one Liberal because of his weight and then apologised. Several times he's referred to Matthew Guy, the opposition leader, as that little man. But that doesn't mean he could say something so crass and cruel about a person fighting cancer. The important backstory to this is the politics. Either Mr Andrews said it, in which case his denial is dishonest and not what he pretends, and he's not what he pretends to be, or he didn't say it, and he's now denied it on the record. You would think that would be enough. You would think that would be accepted. The point is, there are those in his own government who either don't believe him or are using it to undermine him anyway. And that's a toxic situation for government. Look, this is very important behind the scenes. Mr Andrews may think it's unfair because he insists he didn't say this. Perhaps it is unfair, but that's politics. People play games. And at the moment, on his own side, people are playing destructive games over this issue, and it's undermining the Premier in his own party. Look, I'm not saying there will be a challenge. I'm not saying there's even a huge number of his parliamentary party involved. But this has got the potential of building, which is why you need to know about it, despite the threats to us from the Premier's office. They said he would sue. They said he would never appear on the program again. Well, so be it. He says he didn't say it. Other sources still insist they heard him say it. I'm trying hard here to be fair, but you need to know what's going on. It is your government. I'm convinced what I've said here is fair, and I'm convinced it is also in the public interest.